It's pretty rare that I come across a Netflix show that grabs my attention quite as quickly as Squid Game. It was one of those shows that the second I read the premise, I kind of laughed at it a little and decided to watch it just to make fun of it. But there I was, 6 hours later, finishing the show in a single sitting with my jaw on the floor, because what I just watched was a lot better than your average Korean drama. This show really is something else, and if you haven't seen it yet, I highly recommend you watch it on Netflix as soon as possible, because holy shit, there are a lot of spoilers on this show already just floating around out there. This video does have a single spoiler in it, but don't worry, I'll warn you before we get to it. The show follows the tales of Seong, Gi-hun. God, you know, I thought I sucked at pronouncing Japanese names, but Korean names are on a whole new level. So, sorry in advance. Gi-hun is an unemployed, debt-ridden gambler. He leeches off of his elderly mother, has a daughter whom he hardly sees, that lives with his ex-wife, and is quick to gamble away every penny he's given. So, you would think that a character like Gi-hun is an irredeemable jerk. But that's not entirely true. At heart, he is an inherently good man. He does truly love his daughter and rejects a large amount of money from his ex-wife's husband that had the condition of him staying away from their family. You see him helping others when he actually wins at gambling and sharing what little luxury he has with complete strangers. And of course, later on we learn about his backstory as to why he lives in poverty. It's because he cared too much for his fellow co-workers. The plot really gets moving when he is challenged to a demeaning game by a man in a business suit. He does end up walking away with a decent amount of money, but he's humiliated in the process. So he's given a business card by the man to come join the Squid Game, where he can make a ton of money over a series of 6 games. So, naturally, seeing how much he had just made, Gi-hun accepts and is picked up in a mysterious van, knocked out, and brought to a mysterious island with 456 other contestants, all of whom are deeply in debt. Joining the game has 3 rules. All players must compete. If a player refuses to compete, they are eliminated. And finally, with a majority vote of the remaining players, the game can be ended at any time. They all compete in the first match, and it's a schoolyard game of red light, green light. And of course, they find out the hard way that being eliminated means death, and over half of them die in the first round. So yeah, that's the hook. I know this has nothing to do with my point, but can I say, God, I love the set design of this show. I adore the design and gameplay of each game and just how gorgeously they are all designed from a visual perspective. It's so creative that each time after a game ends, all the beds in their rooms are neatly reorganized with the proper number of people, and how each set is this larger-than-life recreation of the game. Not to mention the hallways, or even just the design of the workers. There was just an immaculate amount of detail to visuals in this series. Either way, back to this show. The point is that if they either clear all the games, or you are the last man standing, you walk away with the pot, which is increased depending on how many of the other contestants have been eliminated. So, if you're the last man standing, you get to walk away with roughly the equivalent of $40 million. Whereas, if everyone lives, you don't get a penny. And if you end the game early, the survivors get nothing, and the people who died families get an even split of the pot. So yeah, a pretty typical battle royale kind of show, with a unique twist that they can voluntarily leave at any time if they just have the majority vote. Which they do at one time, with the caveat that they can resume the game in 5 days if most of the players choose to come back, which they do. Otherwise, the show probably would have ended after episode 1. So basically, as the games go, we get a sense of who the main characters are. That being, of course, the previously mentioned Gi-hun, but we also have Sang-woo, who knew Gi-hun in real life, Anupam, who is a foreigner from Pakistan with a heart of gold, Hee-yeon-jung, who is a street-savvy girl who escaped North Korea, and finally, number 1, who we do eventually get the name of, but basically he's an old man with a brain tumor who is likely to die soon. Together, they form a makeshift squad to get through most of the games together. But the real thought experiment that is being tested in these games is, are humans inherently cruel? Keep in mind, the games don't have to be competitive. In games like Tug of War and Marbles, they demand that there be a loser, but remember that third rule. They basically can object to any game that forces someone to be eliminated by voting to quit, which can happen at any time. On the other end, we have games like the Sugar Candy one. It's one where helping others is completely allowed, and is done quite a bit, especially with Gi-hun, who came up with a clever solution, and thanks to that, a lot of extra people survived that round. Not to mention, they specify that there are only 6 games, and to win, technically you only need to clear them, not be the last man standing. This question is made explicitly clear in the final twist of the show. So here's that spoiler I mentioned earlier. Skip to the time code on the screen if you guys don't want to be spoiled by it. But when it's revealed that number 1 is actually the original creator of the games, he stated that he explicitly believed that people are inherently bad, and that these games hinge on that. His whole belief system is twisted. It's this idea that when normal humans are given the option to help a complete stranger, they will always choose not to help. Of course, this isn't the case, and this is shown in the games themselves. Anupam goes out of his way to save Gi-hun's life in round 1. Well, I mean, come on, Anupam is like the cinnamon roll character in the show because he's just super sweet to everyone, so let's use a different example. Sungwoo is a pretty cutthroat player, but after the first round is cancelled, Sungwoo actually pays for Anupam's bus ticket despite being in so much debt. And he is a cutthroat player, but yeah, we see him extend kindness to Anupam, who is a complete stranger at this point. And of course, we have to talk about when the game-ending vote was down to a 50-50 split with a single vote left from number 1. And he voted to end the game, despite clearly wanting to continue playing himself. Because despite everything, man is inherently good. Well, at least that's the idea that's being pushed here. But I'm not so sure if that is really true, because there are a few characters who aren't inherently good. Of course, you have Sung Tae, a mobster who is the most cutthroat player of all, who shows no empathy to any of his competitors or hell, even his teammates. And Jo Ryong, who does help occasionally, but she is way more interested in self-preservation in exchange for help. But the one that throws the biggest curveball in the show for me is Ho-young Jung. She's portrayed as one of the good characters, always fighting the bad guys and working alongside Gi-hun. But she's not an inherently good person. I really racked my brain trying to think of a situation where she helped strangers with no expectations from others, but there really wasn't one. Let me know if I just missed something, but it's interesting because I believe that this is the cause of the games continuing to go forward. These people who are inherently bad, that frankly you only need one and the games will continue to be this bloodbath. And there was way more than just one. So maybe our spoiler man wasn't completely wrong. That there are some people who aren't inherently good, or that there are far too few truly good people in this world. And that with just a little bit of money, even people who are inherently good can do truly horrific things. The truth is that there aren't many people built like our good man, Gi-hun. Thank you for watching. Hey, I'm glad you guys finally made it to the end of the video. Make sure you guys subscribe and do all that other fancy algorithm stuff that helps me because holy shit, the channel's doing terrible right now, but that's beside the point. If you want to watch me record videos live, I do them on Twitch, and you guys can join in and make fun of me while I do it. Also, let me know if you guys enjoyed me talking about this show because I have a whole nother video I want to do about like wealth inequality in this show, so like I would totally love to make that video if you guys are actually interested in it. Thank you, see you guys around, peace.